connected with the distribution or transmission network, then there's very little governing what you can do with that power. And that we're going to skirt that line with Soltec and Soltec's residences, where they're not going to be connected to the grid, but they are most definitely going to be connected to one another. And the question is, they will be transmitting power, and we'll see who comes along and tries and stop that. So if you're totally off grid, if you're not connected to the distribution network, in the past the mines would have struggled because you needed a license above a certain megawatts. But with the registration, you can generate 1,000 megawatts. And if it's not touching the distribution system, then NERSA can register you, but there's no control after that. And where that 1,000 megawatts goes, if you want to put it across if you want to put it across boundaries, that is possible unless you start, and that is the one court case that we're now, AfriForum is going to be in court, I think it's next week, is Frankfurt. It's the rural Free State court case, where you've got 6 farmers. Well, it's 2 court cases, so let me elaborate a bit. The one court case is Frankfurt, the rural town in the Free State, fascinatingly enough, is an example for where we should be going. Is that municipality went, almost 10 years ago, we can't manage the electricity here, and they got a private contractor in to run their transmission, then distribution, to do debt collection. And suddenly what happened is Frankfurt is paying its electricity on time, and everyone has power, but it's been such a success that they're sitting with more than enough power to not have load shedding. Yet, due to the grid operator code, they need to shut the town down when load shedding happens. So they're not pulling from the grid, but they need to still put the people in the dark. And now this is something that screams for litigation, that says, why? This doesn't make any sense. They've got enough power. They're not drawing from the rest of the grid. They're not causing grid collapse or anything regarding that. They're not going to endanger the grid. This Mafube is the municipality. They should be able to get themselves through load shedding. They've got enough capacity to do it, and it's a private company that actually runs the distribution on behalf of the municipality. So that's a model that we would very much like to roll out in the rest of the country, saying, but get a private company in to run it. That's the one. The second part is exactly this issue with Eskom, is whilst you've got Eskom's top brass we'll see with the new guy, but with Mr. Director, who blatantly said Eskom will not be able to provide it in the energy capabilities. We need the private sector to get online. I will give you this much hectares next to power stations. Please come build power plants and generate electricity. You've then got in the Free State 6 farmers who set up a solar farm for themselves, for their farms, to power their farms. And then they told Eskom, okay, but we would like to wheel the electricity across your network from our solar farm to our farms, just to make sure it gets there. And then Eskom said, no, we're not going to allow you onto the network. So they went, all right, boer maak 'n plan. We're then going to build our own network to get this. And then Eskom said, no, we're not going to allow you to do that either, which is so out of lockstep with what everyone else is saying. So that's going to court as well in the next month or so, saying, but you cannot not solve the problem and then prevent everyone else from solving the problem as well. And if these 2 cases go the way that we think they go, that's going to create a massive precedent for, you can imagine, every single estate in this country will suddenly be able to say, oh, we're going to build a concentrated solar plant off-site, and then we're going to wheel back to our own entity that buys it and then resells it according to the license or the distribution license that we already have. So we're not even moving out of the regulations as such. We just want to wheel it 1 or 2 kilometers, and that's what we need. And if we can get that going, that will ultimately lead to a situation where you've got people who are now going to do the trade-off. Is, do I create the solar plant or the wind turbine in the east of Pretoria with only 50 kilometers of wheeling, which has a certain loss factor, or do I go into the Northern Cape where there's a lot more sun, but I lose more across? And that's the normal market forces that you want at work. Exactly, and that is something that you can't do centrally. You want entrepreneurs to be busy saying, I'm going to take the opportunity and create a solar farm here, or I'm going to, what is something that we can already see companies doing, that I'm just going to rent people's roof space. So I'm going to say, I will pay you for your roof space, and I'm going to put my panels on your roof, and then I will pay you in kilowatt hours, and the rest I'll take for myself and resell to the university, to the municipality, or to whomever I want. So what we can see is government is barely holding on to the energy market, desperately trying to control it. But the amount of illegal installations that have just gone ahead is actually staggering. Is you've got whole shopping centres that are completely illegally or with solar panels or generators that should have been registered that they need to shut down, which they're just not doing. And the Frankfurt guys, and they just don't switch off the power during load shedding anymore. And the question is, is Eskom going to show up and tell them, no, you need to switch off the power that you're generating yourself? It's not something that's possible in South Africa at the moment. And that is, we're trying to get those examples out into the world and saying, but this is the way you should be going. Get a community, start generating your own power, and then just create the reality. Ultimately, what we've seen, especially with something as critical as energy, is the legislation will adapt to the reality. We are going to get to energy stability with or without government.
The organisation that can stop these farms, or was it NERSA or the
It's in this case they need to go across Eskom's distribution license area. That's the problem. So it's actually Eskom. The other one is the Mafuba municipality, which has a license, but it's once again the municipality itself saying, well, it's NERSA then saying, no, but you need to switch it off if it's load shedding. So it's this weird, unholy alliance of people who are trying to get all regulation to keep us in the dark. And there are some light points, and there will be a lot more.